how the state has a role in that process.
Looking, how do you want me to do this? You want to try to hold this
you can
down?
hold it, yeah.
Thank you.
You're the man.
You can take it off the stand if you want to.
Oh, you're so talented.
Just kind of, again, a follow-up to yesterday. What was the big concern coming out of the meeting yesterday? Was it tone? Was it what was actually said? Or what was the big issue coming out of yesterday's meeting?
I'm not really sure what you're referring to, but the reason for the meeting was to talk about voting rights and the right of every individual citizen to have one vote for their elected official, and to make sure that the governor's office or any other office doesn't overreach in their position in removing other people from elected office. So that meeting basically was about people's rights under the law as far as one person would vote.
Now talking.
Certainly the issue was not the tone, because this is not a personality issue. It is, our concern is that when you begin to remove duly elected people, who the people of that community have elected to represent them, then there becomes an issue. A lot of people in this community have fought very hard to make sure that their right to vote and the opportunity to vote is heard. If there is a problem with any school board in this state or in this country, we have a process for that. It is called a recall election, and they can remove elected people in the state of Georgia, typically on the third Tuesday in July and the first Tuesday in November, followed by the first Monday. It's called an election.
So then let's look ahead to tomorrow. The governor is expected 11 a.m. to name the 6 replacements to the board. What happens then, or is that the end of the road when it comes to this specific issue or this specific fight over the board?
Well, it can't be the end.
Black Caucus, or are you referring to?
In general, I'm talking about general.
Okay, so I'm going to speak first as the chair of the Black Caucus. For the Black Caucus, we're on the quest for justice. Now, as a citizen of DeKalb, the citizens of DeKalb have every right to go through the legal process that they see fit. It's necessary.
As far as I'm concerned, I represent Albany, Georgia, Doherty, Miller, Baker, and Seminole counties. So the issue really is not what they do in DeKalb, but the process as to how we move forward. The process that we have now, I think, is somewhat flawed, because basically to give a private organization the authority to have that much influence over the public school systems in the state is troubling. It should be troubling for the people of DeKalb, and I can assure you that it is troubling for the people of Doherty County, Baker County, Miller County, and Seminole.
And let's talk about Miller County in specific. Do you think that process was handled properly when it came to dealing with that board when both Sachs and the governor?
Well, the people of Miller County felt as if it was handled properly, because they never voiced an opinion that was contrary to that. You see, this is an electoral process. It is something that has been debated and fought for since our founding fathers established this country. And it was based on an individual having the privilege and the right to vote, to select those people who should represent them in elected office. And I don't think because we have a problem in DeKalb, or that the people of DeKalb have decided to elect someone whom others feel is not representing their interests, that is a people of DeKalb issue. It should not be something where that the state, the Black Caucus, the Democratic Caucus, the governor, or the school board addresses. That's a people of DeKalb issue.
Let's come to this hearing. What is your, in a nutshell, what is the big issue for you when it comes to the accreditation process and Sachs in specific?
Okay, so let's back up a little. So let's start about yesterday and the tone, because you started off with that question, correct? And when we left that meeting yesterday, I know there were different individuals from different groups around the state who expressed their opinions. I, for one, because I serve in several roles. Not only am I a member, the chair of the Black Caucus, I'm a member of the DeKalb delegation, but first and foremost, I am a mommy of students in the DeKalb County school system. So let's start from there. So while I serve in the House, my initial housework is to make sure that my children have the proper education. So they do. DeKalb County has increased in performance. DeKalb County has done a lot of things, student achievement that I have been proud of. I am not one who just legislates from here. I serve on the school councils. I have been PTA president. Even last Thursday, before I came to session, I was on a sixth grade field trip with my child from Salem Middle School. So first of all, I have a vested interest in the DeKalb County school system. So for anyone to say that I am trying to take up for a school board that is inefficient is incorrect and it is improper. What I am standing up for is everybody's individual right to have a vote, to have a say of who their elected official is. So that's my very first and foremost goal.
Could we talk about today's hearing, the hearing today? I want to know, what is your biggest concern with the accreditation process as it stands now?
Well, first of all, I don't think people understand that SACS is formed, is paid by the citizens. So every school system pays SACS to accreditate them. And there are many different accrediting systems in Georgia. So basically, you don't have to come up under SACS. It's just the system that many people have chosen. And when you go to SACS website, they don't even have a standard across the board of their rubric. So they expect school systems to follow a certain standard, but they don't even follow a certain standard. So that's something that we need to discuss, is that how can a school accrediting system have that much power in a state? That it can even have the governor's hands tied into removal school boards if they give a recommendation to the state association.
It sounds like you're saying the process needs to be changed.
We need to look at the process. We're the ones who can change the process, but we are the lawmakers.
I mean, I guess personally, it's not a problem with SACS because SACS is only operating the authority that has been granted by the legislature. SACS accrediting agencies throughout the state have always served a very vital and important role, because what they do is they establish a basic standard of determining what is acceptable and what is not acceptable when it comes to the education of our children. What we really want to do is to get a better understanding of the accreditation process. What is it that they have to do to go through to make sure that schools are accredited, to make sure that what happens in the process of putting schools on probation and suspension, how do they go about doing that, how do they go about coming off of probation, and what is the impact of their decisions that's going to have on the children of the state or the children of our counties. We would like to be able to just get a real good understanding of this entire process, so that at the end of the day, we can come forth with the governor and the legislature to see how we can come up with something that truly works for the children of the state. One final thing. See, because through all of this, the most important thing here is student achievement. And none of the systems that have been placed on probation by SACS have been placed on probation based on student achievement. It has been primarily for governance by the board. Now listen, we're all in a political arena, a political environment, and if you were to remove the members of Congress or the members of this House or this Assembly or essentially any city government or county government because they don't get along with each other and have harsh words, we wouldn't have anybody represent anybody in this nation. The political process is a cantankerous one, and it is based on individuals who represent constituents to make sure that they can get as many assets that system has for their constituents.
Well, then one quick follow-up to that. Do you feel that the process that just happened with DeKalb, do you feel that that was flawed? Do you think that that was done incorrectly?
It was done. There were other options, perhaps, in the DeKalb situation that could have taken place, because DeKalb has been the only school board that has not been given the opportunity to correct its flaws, I think, after the SACS accreditation comes in and say, you on probation. The other school boards have been given an opportunity with contingencies to see if we can work through that process.
Do you think DeKalb was treated unfairly in this process?
They were treated.
Citizens of DeKalb have been treated unfairly.
This,
Oh, okay.
What are we doing?
You can go ahead, but that's,
Oh, you said the
I
citizens?
think the citizens of DeKalb have been
Okay, okay. And by this process?
about the
Or
process.
way? Tell me,
Because
elaborate
when
on
you
that.
remove a school board, the children are the foremost importance, but it's also destabilizing the entire school system and county, because there are ramifications when you start removing school board members. The process is tedious. When the school board members and the appointing commission by the governor went in, there was so much critique from all type of outsiders, from the governor's office itself, all the way down to the liaisons, down to other school board members, down to elected officials, community people, school people, because the process had never been tried out before. So when you do that, you cause an entire county to possibly be destabilized. And that's what happened. Instead of giving the school board the opportunity to go in and try to work out the things that SAC said was not done properly.
see, everywhere else, one of the questions that I posed to the governor on yesterday is that the board that SACs did not move the DeKalb County School Board based on student achievement. They were moved based on governance. So if the board that they have there now does not work, then once we put in a new board that the governor has selected, will the school system then come off of probation? And the answer to that question is no. Because what they have is a review process in April, and then they're going to be in that place until December. They're going to be there regardless of whether or not they have this board or the appointed board. And as to whether or not I think the DeKalb County School Board was treated unfairly, fairness is in the eye of the beholder. I can say that they were treated different.
I think that's all.
Anybody else?
Let me get you guys' names one more time, because I didn't get it on tape.
Let's see if I got a card. That might be even better.
I got you.
Winfred Dukes,
And you represent?
House District 154.
Okay. And you?
Pete Dalton Hager.
Okay. And your district?
I represent District 91, but I'm the chair of the Black Caucus.
Your hands are tired.
Yeah, I need fingers.
Thank you so much. That's for you. This is for you.
Thank you.
Let me ask this. Did they not have a chance to oppose this when the governor put this bill in place in terms of being able to remove school board officials?
They put it in place. Try to remove it now, right?
Yeah.
On the cheating.
Right. So why, if they saw that then, why they hadn't tried to repeal or take the power away from the government?
Good question.
All right. One more.
Come on.
You good? Yeah, they gone. They got what they want.
This place. We're going to get started, and hopefully the other members will come and join us.
Okay. So thank you again for coming out on today. On behalf of the Georgia Legislative Black Caucus, we thank you. This is a very important issue to all of us because our children are one of the most important things that we have to look forward to for our future. Because I don't know about you, but I have 4 children, and I need all of them to go to great colleges so they can have great careers, so they can take care of me when I, in my senior years. So with that being said, I want to thank Representative Winfred Dukes for agreeing to put together this entire meeting on today, this hearing. I want to recognize, do you all want to say your own names? Or you want me to recognize you? So we have Representative Darrell Jordan, who represents District 77, Senator Donzella James, District 35, and then we have Representative Sharon Beasley Teague, which is District 65.
We have Sandra.
And then coming in the back door is Representative Sandra Scott. And I'm going to turn it back over now to Representative Winfred Dukes.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We actually started considering this meeting at the first of the year, long before the other issues were coming up. We really did. Because we wanted to have an understanding, and I think the Legislative Black Caucus and the legislators wanted to get wanted to have a thorough understanding as to the accreditation process. Now that we have empowered accreditations to an extent that is to a point where that you can actually remove remove duly elected officials based on governance or a lack of. We wanted to know more about accreditation. We want to kind of get an understanding from you all what is the mission and the purpose of accreditation, the specific role that accreditation provides to the school system. What happens if a school system, for whatever reason, is put on probation or suspension? How does the system come off of probation and suspension? What's the ramifications of each? And some of the specific agendas that each accreditation service has. And along with that, there have been people who have gone through being placed on probation. There are people who have been removed because of this. And there are people, in the case of Roberts versus Deal, where the Supreme Court said that in their case that it was unconstitutional for this to happen. So as the convener of this particular event, I first of all want to thank my chairman for giving me the opportunity to work on this on behalf of the caucus. But we would like to know more about this process. And what our objective would be at the end of it is to figure out how we can come forth with legislation that perhaps does not place removing board members in a posture of being unconstitutional. There has to be some mechanism for us to accomplish this objective and still be within the confines of the law. And with that, we have a cast of individuals who have agreed to come and share some of these thoughts with us. First, we have Dr. Calvin Brown with the Georgia Accrediting Commission. And what I would like for you to do is to come forward. There's a mic there, and sit at the table and kind of give us a little opening statement about what it is that you do. And Dr. Brown, I see you brought some other people with you. I was looking for Dr. Hicks. Oh, there he is. We didn't want to start without you, Dr. Hicks, who actually served as a superintendent and is one of your board members who served as a superintendent of my high school place that I graduated from. So, Dr. Brown, if you would come forward.
Made up of teachers, superintendents, principals, private and public, etc. We have about 18 consultants. I'm made up of, again, of educators and former educators. So,
That'll work, right here.
All right. And that microphone so that
What's up, man?
five of you all?
There's another seat all the way across.
This is 5 seats.
Hello, talk with him, please.
There's 3 chairs here and 1 over there. Is this okay if I see you?
Yeah, that's fine. Come on. Come on.
well, thank you for all the arrangements. I tried to get individuals who represent different tasks that the commission has to accomplish. So on the far end here, I brought our senior consultant, Dr. Bob Three, and Dr. Three has worked in colleges and universities and public schools. he's very, very important to the organization. He and the 17 others, they're actually school inspectors, but we call them school consultants to make it sound a little bit easier to deal with. But in fact, we ask them to go out and inspect the schools, and they do. And so Bob represents that group of people. Then next we have Buford Hicks. Buford is currently the Heart of Georgia RESA director in Eastman, but he has served as principal, as a superintendent, now RESA director, and he has a good knowledge of what happens in several districts, so he's not limited particularly to just one. The next is Tom Holmes, and Tom Holmes is a professor emeritus, meaning he retired, from the University of Georgia, where he spent 25 or 30 years, from the leadership department. Next is Philip Murphy, and Philip, how do I say this? He's me. I'm retiring in the end of June, and he gets to take over there. This is my 11th year with the commission, and I have had the opportunity to work right with the previous director for 13 years. So I have a little bit advantage over Philip in the sense that I have more experience. But I'd like to ask Philip, if you would, to begin and tell us about, or tell the folks about the GAC.
We thought it'd be appropriate to give a little history of the Georgia Accrediting Commission, as well as yes, for mission and just some background information on us. For over 100 years, the Georgia Accrediting Commission has provided continuous leadership for education in Georgia. The accrediting process stimulates local schools and school districts to improve the qualifications of staff members, teaching conditions and curriculum, and to provide better and safer physical facilities. The Commission also provides a valid means of judging the quality of schools. As a result, the academic credits of students who transfer between accredited schools can be accepted without special examination. Accreditation by the Georgia Accrediting Commission has always been a way of recognizing schools with good educational programs. Its standards continue to serve as a guide for those who want to develop good programs. 110 years ago, on July 1st, 1903, Chancellor Walter B. Hill of the University of Georgia employed Dr. Joseph Stewart as professor of secondary education to work with the high schools in Georgia to bring about a better relationship between the schools and the University of Georgia. This was the beginning